Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 143. Happy Christmas Eve to some, and happy Christmas to some if you live over there in Australia or New Zealand. Shout out to my Aussie Wolves. And I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in today. I'm completely aware that maybe most of you are out there spending time with friends or family. I completely understand. And for those of you weekend warriors that were waiting for this podcast to release patiently, I appreciate you as well. And I'm really excited to get into this one today. There's a lot to break down. We're moving into the final week of this year, and we have the stock market at all-time highs right into that 3-day weekend. We'll be talking a little bit about the stock market today as well. Just to recap what has happened since our last podcast, and then we'll be talking about our usual Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and then getting into Waves, Corium, Sia Coin, and Kusama. So, lots to get into today. Without further ado, make sure you get comfortable and relaxed, especially if you've been overeating during these holidays, or if you've been over drinking. You crazy wolves. I actually am having some coconut water today, so I am behaving. But I hope you guys are doing amazing. It's a really amazing time right now to be preparing ourselves for these changes on the world stage. And, these are the times of the year where there's a lot of distractions, there's a lot of consumerism, there's a lot of fake friends and fake family and fake love. And what we need to do here in this community is go back to real love. And what we're doing here is a beautiful thing. I'm really grateful to be surrounded by such beautiful people here in this community. So I just wanted to start this out with gratitude for each and every one of you. Seriously, I really love what we're doing here, and I cannot wait to see what 2024 has in store for us. But let's just get into today's podcast. I have something that I thought to bring up in regards for next week, because I've been getting a lot of the same votes in the comments section for the coins to look at, such as Theta, VeChain, Hedera. And I thought, and you guys could let me know what you think in the comments below, if you would like, next week on Red Pill Podcast 144, I can cover the projects I'm personally investing in, similar to Red Pill Podcast 138 a little bit over a month ago. And that could be like our New Year's Eve special. I do believe New Year's Eve is next Sunday. Let me double check that to make sure yes, I'm correct. So I don't know if I can make that happen. I would like to. Chief Wolf has a personal life as well, but if I can make that happen, I would love to. And to celebrate that, perhaps I can be taking that podcast to go over VeChain, Theta, Cardano, Hedera, Matic, Aave, Cosmos, Polkadot, maybe a couple others. And that way we could just wipe out those coins from being voted on for a couple months at least. I do know that there's a lot of excitement around all of these projects I just named, and that's to be expected. But we do need to give some of these a break. So I thought, maybe we'll just, before the new year, take that podcast that we're prepping for next week and just settle on that. So if you guys would like that, you could go ahead and vote in the comments of this video by just saying Wolfpack. I think that should be a fun way to kick off the new year, especially on this powerful number 144. Red Pill Podcast 144, literally landing on the last day of this year. That is 12 squared, or 12 12s. It's a super powerful number. So go ahead, and only maybe one person needs to write Wolfpack. So you guys can give it all a thumbs up, and then that'll give me the go ahead to assume that that's what we should do. Okay, and if you didn't get the update that I shared on Friday, a couple days ago, I am prepping the launch of my newest full-length course titled The Decoding Mastermind. And I wanted to let you all know here, as Patreon supporters, you'll not only get the 20% off courses discount you normally get for being in our mastermind community, but you'll also be getting a pre-sale launch price here exclusively on Patreon, which would be an even bigger discount for the first group to sign up for these masterclasses. So if you're interested in that, go over to our Discord, and under my updates tab, which should be at the top of the server for you, you're going to want to scroll down to this text channel right here called Decoding Mastermind, and in the bottom post you can react to this post with this crown emoji, and this post above right here has more details, and I'll be sharing the official release date, pricing, and more details coming soon. I already have over 300 completed slides with an intention on releasing this project in phases, one at a time, to make this an interactive masterclass. So 2024 is right around the corner and school's in session. But jokes aside, I really took the time to build this course in a way that's for all levels and to effectively expedite you through this process of becoming a self-reliant decoder. The amount of value that's going to be packed into this is unmatched. I know going from my crypto to advanced trading to this recent expansion mastermind project last year, that these projects just keep getting more and more elevated. And I'm really feeling amazing about preparing each and every one of these slides for these masterclasses I'm about to launch in this Decoding Mastermind course. So I'm feeling really amazing about this. I've been in an incredible flow state, coming out with some of the most unique material I've ever designed. And I'll make sure to update you all very soon when I'm done with this first round of filming, and I'll have everything organized and ready to launch. I'll have the course lessons filmed, and that's when I will give you all the update. And again, I just wanted to let you all know that I am so grateful for all the continued support. Truly, I'm really looking forward to this year of 2024 and the incredible things we're going to do together as a community. So getting into today's red pill, we have a 3-day weekend for the stock market. As I mentioned, the traditional markets are closed for tomorrow, which is Christmas. Saturnalia is officially over as of yesterday, and we're a couple days out from this month's full moon on December 26th, the day after Christmas. So that is also the day that the stock market will be reopening after the holiday tomorrow. It's important to note that the full moon will be on market open. And on this full moon in a couple days, it will be exactly 3 months until our next lunar eclipse. So we're in the home stretch, everyone. The next 90 days are going to be very important for the setup into the next phase of this bull run. Because what we see every time is that between the third solar eclipse and fourth solar eclipse of our solar cycle is when Bitcoin breaks out into price discovery. And April 8th of 2024 will be our third solar eclipse, and October 2nd of 2024 will be our fourth solar eclipse. So write those dates down. So it's likely that Bitcoin breaks out to a new all-time high around August to October of 2024. Again, this doesn't mean that it will hit the cycle peak all-time high at this time. We need to clear up that confusion. It means that it's likely to start breaking above our current all-time high and heading into price discovery at that time. Another way of saying this is that it's likely Bitcoin breaks above $70,000 between August and October of 2024, or at least trading very close to that level. And this is not my opinion. It is based on what's happened in prior cycles. I've shown you guys this many times in several charts here and several podcasts. So if you're brand new to the community, first and foremost, welcome to the Wolfpack. So great to have you here with us. But definitely take the time to check out these past podcasts over the past couple months. And also, instead of just reaching out to me immediately when you join, if you're brand new here, and asking questions about, have you covered this one project, or definitely ask this kind of stuff in the Discord. We will be responsive there. I'm even active there. It's better than bogging down my messages or my emails, because those are for support and for troubleshooting and for more serious things. And a lot of the time you can just use the search function inside of Discord and you could figure out the last time I covered a project. It's very simple. It's very quick. It's very easy. If you don't know how to do it, just ask the community and we will definitely help out in the Discord for any general questions. But this idea that I'm sharing right now between the third solar eclipse and fourth solar eclipse of a solar cycle and Bitcoin entering price discovery, this is not my opinion. It's what happened in prior cycles. So we want to be very clear there. As a technical analyst and professional trader, as a professional technical analyst, I am not telling you my opinion right now. We want to be very clear on these things, because as we have moved through the last bull run and through this whole bear market, and here we are today effectively in phase one of the new bull run, we still have a lot of, kind of attention in the crypto market that hasn't become the most sophisticated yet. And there's no offense to that. We've all been there. We were all new at some point. So that's another thing to tell our seasoned, community members that are hearing comments from newer members, perhaps, or people that are brand new to crypto. Compassionate all these moments where you're getting a little bit too feisty, Let's not get so feisty, wolves. Even for me, being in the hot seat, being the one who's sharing this information, there's a lot of times where people come around and they're like, what happened to that prediction? Or what happened to, and it's like, you could clearly tell this individual did not pay attention. They weren't hearing or listening effectively. And this is where speaking curiously and listening curiously is a game changer. One of the most life-changing skills you could develop is to be able to curiously listen, curiously speak. You practice those two in tandem, and you will become much more sophisticated in this reality. You will be able to re-access your own intuition, effectively use your own discernment, and you'll make better decisions for you, for your family, for your people. It's those that are very emotionally charged and emotionally reactive that tend to not make the most ideal choices. So getting back to this, we've cleared up all the confusion. We've been very, direct about these phases one by one. And it's important that we take this time frame seriously, as I mentioned moments ago, because we really are in the home stretch. 90 days to go until our next eclipse. So using this same strategy that I used in the past, we were able to determine 8 months in advance that Bitcoin is likely to move up into the macro golden pocket. So it's this territory right here that we're in. I'll go to this chart to actually show you what I'm saying. Same strategy that's helping us determine that Bitcoin is likely to break into price discovery between the third and fourth solar eclipse is the same strategy that we used 8 months before we had this breakout into the golden pocket to determine that Bitcoin would be trading around this before the third solar eclipse of a solar cycle, and to not be betting against the second solar eclipse of a solar cycle as we get closer to it. This is why over half a year ago, I was able to determine at least a 40K Bitcoin before the end of 2023. And here we are now. It's right there at the end of the year. Bitcoin is trading at 43,000. So one step at a time. But we know without a doubt these eclipses play a crucial role in the energy and direction of this market. And of course, I'll keep you updated every step of the way, and I'll keep you prepared as far in advance as possible. So we will be getting to the Bitcoin analysis, kind of checking in on this rejection level that we've been getting. Since my last YouTube video was put out, we have given some analysis on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP quite recently, but we will recap that and we will share a very thorough analysis on Bitcoin, so do not worry. Be getting to that soon. But I want to check back in with what Solana's doing right now, not because I want to pump any energy into this project, but it's really just because I found something quite interesting, and it has to do with this move up to almost $119, 119. That's very fishy to me, because let me show you something. remember this chart that I shared just a couple days ago? It looked like this. I shared it over on Patreon and double posted in our Discord. We were talking about this moment right here in this red box and this sell-off from this peak back in September, late August, down to this swing low, which was right around December 23rd of 2020. Okay? Let me show you what this was. If I zoom in on this exact bottom date, I want you to look up here where it says C, and then it's going to tell you a price. You could look now. $1.19 on the daily close, 119, on December 23rd of 2020. Now here we are, we just made it a day later, but I told everyone about this in my last YouTube video. The reason for today, because it is a Sunday, day of the sun, Solana is sun, and we have this connection to the number 119 again. Except this time around, it's 119. But doesn't this blow your mind that on this exact date, synchronized with this time frame that we're in right now, this was our bottom, and then effectively today we're seeing it seemingly as a short-term top. Now I'll get into that in a moment, but I do find that very weird. You know, here in this community, we don't use the word coincidence, because we know the truth. So, again, this was right at the end of Saturnalia, end of the solstice, and the pivot that Solana made in late December. And this daily candle close was $1.19. And funny enough, I was just decoding the 119 code recently and the connection to the date that Donald Trump's stage arrest happened on, August 24th. Let me quickly go to that. So you have 8/24. Yes, I did say staged. So right now we have from this date to 119 days later is going to be December 20th. You're going to see right there. So between Trump's arrest and December 20th, we have 119, right? Now, if we look at what this date looks like for the Solana chart. Oh, by the way, this is coincidence. I was just in the midst of decoding this separately, like having fun with it. Okay, and I saw a couple matchups. For one, we have the 75s in the date numerology. Then we have the 21, 12, as above, so below. So it was completely on the side. And then this whole Solana thing happened, and now I'm synchronizing it all together. And if we go to December 20th, you can see that's this day right here when Solana really started to break out. So, you know, I just find this really interesting. I do. I find this really, really interesting that we see this move engaging on the 20th. Now, one other thing that I was noticing is that if we take from that daily open up to this swing high, it's effectively 62%. And that's also in the code of Solana, giving you 62. Now, the mirror of 62 is 26, and Solana's all-time high is $260. 26 in numerology, removing the zero. And that's just a random side note. I thought that was also pretty interesting. But what's more important is I'm thinking about how Terra Luna was $119 on its all-time high before it collapsed. Now, I'm not saying Sol is going to zero or that it's going to completely collapse. That's not the point. But trading up to this level right here is definitely sketchy. You know, synchronized with the timing of all of this, especially back 3 years ago. So with this 3 days of darkness and back 3 years ago, it's another thing that's making me think about this, you know, right after the solstice during this 3 days of darkness, you have Solana breaking out, perfectly hitting this price range on a Sunday, day of the sun, day of Sol. And it's even more weird how this is at the same time of year in 2020 before the bull run, Solana dumped into this exact price moment with that lower candle at $1.19. You know, what a coincidence. Also, back during the all-time high, Terra Luna hit $119. Remember when it crashed? It was a lunar eclipse ritual. Well, another lunar eclipse ritual was FTX and their FTT token, which crashed on November 11th. November 9th. November 9 is the 9/11 date. So going back to FTT's all-time high, it was hitting its all-time high within 48 hours of September 11th. You had Terra Luna hit an all-time high of 119. You had Solana hit this 119 target all the way back here. And now today you're seeing, so yeah, it's just very interesting to me how some of these projects are so synchronized with this 911119 code. So let's see what happens with Solana next on this weekly close. It's above the 88 RSI. I believe, let me just double check this because we did get the weekly close just now. I believe this should update. Yeah, we're at 87 RSI right now. So this is incredibly overheated. And this AR phase is effectively fulfilled regarding its targets. Now, it's just up to the market maker to continue to keep the sell wall at 119, or whales dump and force a liquidation, essentially a liquidation ritual. And another thing could be it could keep going. Absolutely. We can see that this is just an altcoin, and during the way up, there are major corrections, of course. We could see back here. When it had this recovery phase, it made it all the way through the golden pocket, got rejected on the 888, and after rejection on the 888, it had about a 38% pullback. So if that was the case, if it was to make it up all the way up there, I mean, that would be a mind-blowing move, to be completely honest. But having a 38% correction would effectively bring you right back into today's targets. I don't think that's likely. It's very unlikely given where our RSI is at on the weekly chart, and it also syncs up with the high of the RSI at this same peak over here. Sorry if this is difficult to see, but this peak RSI was right around 86 to 87 RSI before this deeper correction, and that's where we're at today. So keep this in mind. I think that this is enough attention into this project because everyone wants to talk about something after it gets exciting. Nobody really cares about something when it's down. And that's why all the prana is being shoveled into this right now. So don't get distracted. Spend your time just getting into opportunities and don't get lost in something that's already in FOMO land. But coming back to this theory that I just shared with you a moment ago about how the market maker could continue to keep their sell wall on this project at 119, or the whales can dump and force a liquidation. This could be done easily, starting with leverage exchanges using stablecoins. It's very simple. And this liquidation ritual would align with my 30 to 40% Bitcoin correction concept that I shared last month. Again, not my opinion. It's what Bitcoin has done in past cycles. But let's go back to Bitcoin so I can just kind of recap what I'm talking about right now. So if Bitcoin was effectively to do this, and remember that 30 to 40% correction had everything to do with being based on percentage from Bitcoin's current microcycle peak. So if I was to turn off all this noise and put us on a daily chart, clean this up a little bit, you're going to see that if we were to take from our current high, for whatever reason, if Bitcoin is done for now and has actually stopped this rally at the 702 macro fib, then consider a 30% correction from here, putting you at about 31K Bitcoin. We brought this price up many, many times now. And a full 40% correction would bring you back to about 26K Bitcoin. Again, holding the higher low structure. It's important to note that. So even with this full 40% correction from current high, it would be a bullish correction regarding the overall macro picture. It would be an opportunity. Although we don't like to see triple bottom structures in a micro perspective either. So I don't want to get too complicated right now into this analysis. And again, this is not me getting into predictions. It's more about what we've seen in the past and the likelihood if we were to stop out here of just a 30% correction is actually higher, considering Bitcoin did not make the full 40% move to the upside like we've seen in all the past iterations of these cycles here. So we have this one move here. The way that it finished off was about a 40% move from entering the golden pocket, and then it led to about a 40 to 50% correction instantly. Then over here, we had about a 40% move finishing off this final touch into the golden pocket. Then we had instantly corrected, and then eventually a full completion of the correction sideways. Then over here in this cycle, we had the same thing, getting into the golden pocket, finishing it off with a 40% move to the upside, deep correction right away, kind of a blow off top structure, bull trap, lower low, lower high, then holding the structure before having an even deeper move to the downside. So this was a very elusive cycle. I think we all have to admit, as professional traders and professional technical analysts, this was insane, having to navigate this whole monstrosity. This, on the other hand, was easy as shit to just continue riding this curve. Every single time we had a deeper correction, it was on the weekly 21 exponential. It was like surfing the most beautiful waves of all time. And very few of us were in this cycle, but you can see how I'm able to speak these sentences. It means that I've taken the time to learn the skill so that when we get these styles of moves, I will know what to do. We're teaching people to become self-reliant here. The reason why nobody was able to take action on a lot of these plays back then is because nobody knew. Nobody knew how to navigate this on their own. And there wasn't as many influencers back then either. Today, we are inundated with influencers, and everyone has an opinion. Very few people have the facts. So that's what's making what we're doing here so special. It's so rare to be surrounded by so many enlightened individuals at this time, and not just enlightened in the realm of crypto, but in finances in general, and in worldview. You know, I mean, how beautiful is that? So getting back to this, because Bitcoin has not had this explosive 40% move to the upside, let's trace from, I think it was December 2nd to our current high. We only got 15%. All right. Like, that's not nearly as much as we've seen on these prior iterations. I think it's right about here. I could turn on this. So off of this closure that gets you in the golden pocket, you'll see this was very overextended. You had a 45% move to the upside over here. You can see from the day getting inside of this golden pocket, effectively right there, move to the upside. You got 38%, very close to 40. You got over here, this move off of the candle that gets you into the daily, into the golden pocket. That would be 41%, perfectly to that wick. So those are your cycles, and Bitcoin has not even gotten 38% up. So this is very interesting. Also, remember, something we need to clear up and we should bring up because it could be helpful. When we look at the timing of this move, the time of year you have here, it happened in June, basically late June. Here you have it happening in June. Here you have it happening in effectively August. So it happened during this hemisphere's summertime. Very weird, right? How we're doing this move into the golden pocket this early. We're doing it in the fucking winter. The opposite season. Okay? So I just want people to keep this in mind, that the fact that we've gotten up here sooner is very weird. And that makes me confident that because of what I shared with you earlier about how between the third and the fourth solar eclipse, we tend to break out into price discovery. This tells me that from the golden pocket analysis, we're likely to get to the 786 sometime in June. That would make sense. June, July, August. And then the ride of the wave up is quick, because you don't have a lot of data above there. If you were to study Bitcoin's time above this 786 fib, or we'll just call it above 50,000, it's not a lot of trading days in the grand scheme of things. We've spent way more time trading in these levels, and that's a good thing, by the way. That makes Bitcoin able to sustainably, by cycle, continue its bullish momentum, continue its bullish posture, continue its bullish trajectory, no matter how you want to look at it. I mean, you could zoom out on the monthly chart, and my words have just come to life. It's in a forever bull run. And that's good that we spend all this time, these 200, 300, 400 days building all the structure in the lower end, because then when we break out into price discovery, we never have to revisit that shit ever again, unlike what we see with a lot of other projects, sadly. So that's the Bitcoin play, though. That's why being a more sophisticated investor might make you go in the uncomfortable route and consider having a Bitcoin position for the long term because of its performance. It's like betting on the winning horse. In this case, the horse, has proven to win every time. So getting back to this, I want to just talk about how we haven't really fulfilled the full move, and it feels as if we're stalling out, but we've already shared this concept of one last little final push to the upside, and I will be talking about that in a moment. I just have a couple more things that I want to share. We'll be getting deep into this final move analysis for the end of the year. But before I get carried away with that, I just want to make sure we talked about these downside targets, 31K, as low as 26, holding bullish structure. Okay. And even with this full 40% correction that I shared before, getting into these lower areas, that would still actually be a very bullish pullback. But let's get into my personal opinion on this, because I need to have that, intuitive, how am I feeling about all of those words that I just spoke. So if Bitcoin is in fact going to drop below 30K and get closer to this 26K region, then it would probably be short-lived. So now I'm sharing my opinion with you. It would likely just be a week or a couple weeks of blood in the streets, and then we'd be back into this mid 30K range, I believe, pretty quickly. And we would start filling out this 30 to 40K range probably until the February full moon. And remember, we discussed months ago how late March and early April of the year of the dragon, which we're moving into, Chinese zodiac, late March to early April for the S&P 500, after reviewing over 100 years of data, is definitely a interesting time frame to keep in mind, because we've seen all the short-term microcycle tops happen at that time. So like in the third to fourth week, in the third to final week of March, and the very first to second week of April. It's like a month time frame. We've seen most of the time that's where we stall out, and that aligns perfectly with our next solar eclipse. So like you can't make this shit up. It would be likely that we're gonna have the stock market maintain bullish all the way until like late March around the lunar eclipse. Keep that in mind. Also, I'll be diving deeper into that in my upcoming Year of the Dragon Decoded, which I intend to release before the actual start of the Year of the Dragon, which is on February 10th. I intend to release that decode before that. I gotta prioritize this decoding mastermind course for now. I'm sure you all understand. And then I also have another new project that I'm releasing. For any of you that have completed my expansion mastermind course, you heard all about it. And I need to figure out when that's going to come out too. That's a whole different project, Damn, 2024 is going to be busy. 2024 is going to be active for the Wolfpack. All right. Let me just check some of these and make sure that I am on track right now. Okay. Let's get into the stock market really quickly. We're going to do a quick analysis on the indices. During this 3-day weekend, we effectively got our closure in the crypto market today, so that's good. I actually intentionally wanted to align this podcast with that daily close. It's only a little bit later than I usually release it anyways, so let's look at this Dow Jones, see what's up. Gonna go to the weekly. And the Dow Jones closed the week at a new all-time high. Yeah. Just kidding, I don't care. But that's pretty incredible to see. Into the end of the year, mimicking essentially where we topped out, 2022. So in a full year from 2022 to 2023, the market has had a very steep correction perfectly into the end of the Shemitah. Then through the Jubilee, have had recovery, and then once the Jubilee was over, it was green dildos to heaven. Unbelievable. All right, so we are raging to the upside. You could see this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8 green weekly candles in a row. That might be the most green weekly candles we've seen in... Dude. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, back here. Congratulations. This is really interesting. How bullish this shit has been. But also I want to let people know, if we have this target, if we have this breakout right now, we need to consider pulling a micro fib. I'm going to show you how to do that really quickly. If I haven't already, I'm going to go off of our current high and retest. And we're going to see where this next level is likely to give a small pause. And it's this 1618 naturally, right below 38,000 points. So I want everyone to keep that in mind. If we're gonna make another impulsive move to the upside and then stall out for a moment, that's likely it. And I do have a theory. I'm gonna share this with everyone now. I feel, oh, and by the way, we're getting overbought on the RSI, on the weekly chart, by the way. That's like overbought on the weekly RSI for a fucking index, for an indice. That's wild. Okay. So my theory here is that I do feel a short-term correction is likely in the full moon of February. So it wouldn't be weird for me if we were to make this move up into the January new moon, complete this 38,000, a little below 38,000, around there, chill out for a minute, back test prior all-time highs. We could even dip back to the 888 fib. That's not weird either. So it would look something like this. Excuse me. Oh man, I drank so much ginger juice today. Like fresh ginger, amazing. But it's like, ugh, you know how that gets. Drink your ginger, folks. All right, so I'm just kind of going off the cuff here of combining the technical analysis with giving you a little bit of a projection, and it feels like that would be a likely move. Go up to a little bit above the 1618, that's normal, or just in that range. Doesn't really matter. We're pretty much there, and nobody should be banking on a market at all-time highs. That's silly. So then either coming back to build around this prior all-time high level, which would be this gap between here. It would be effectively between 36.5 and 37. Between 36.5 and 37. We have no trading range there, and we just blasted through it on December 11th, you see, on this one candle. So that would be normal. Come up to this micro golden ratio, come back down, build some support in this area, even as low as the macro 888, which is sitting at around 36,000. That would be ideal all around the February full moon. And then we could have a move up like this into April. And then it'll look kind of like this structure. This is kind of a theory that I have. And I do believe that this white trend line is going to continue to be in play because it has been in play forever. All right. So this white trend line that I have on the chart is really awesome. You should mark it off. It's not about being perfectly on every touch point. It's about the trend. So when we're looking at an indice going across 20, 30, 40 years, you're not trying to get the exact bottoms, the exact tops. It's more about just capturing the likely range we would gravitate back to, because if we're above this trend line, we'd be likely to come settle down on it. And if we were below it, it's probably a buying opportunity. So anyways, keep this in mind, this whole structural idea, and now we'll move into the S&P, and you can just carry on what I said with those other indices. So right now we're within probably just a couple percent of all-time highs on the S&P. That's the one that has yet to break into all-time highs. Also the Russell, but yeah, we're within 1.2%. So this is likely to break out very soon into the new moon of January. I would go ahead and assume that's when we're going to hit all-time high for the S&P. And all right, here we are. We've effectively broken into all-time highs on the NASDAQ, and we've closed weeklies on new all-time highs as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 green candles. Fucking crazy. All right, so yeah, we're in a clown world. Welcome to another day in the Matrix. Russell 2000 is effectively closing a weekly on a new high, highest weekly close it's had in over 600 days. So it's also extremely bullish, especially with this bear trap right here. These are very textbook. So you can see holding support for a long period of time, getting another bullish move up, and then one moment of sucking down into a lower low in the structure to capture all those bears. And then, yeah, liquidations the whole way up. I think gold kind of aligned with this move, getting down to 1818. Had this really nice move, and I have to zoom in to show you, but it was this kind of structure here, and then just blasted out of it. And since gold is looking very, very nice, I suspect gold should be really trading at all-time highs and holding all-time highs. January new moon. It's already there, right? And based in dollars. I know it's at new all-time highs in every other peso. People say that to me all the time. They're like, Waters, but gold is at an all-time high in the Colombian peso. I'm like, what does the Colombian peso buy you? Like, what do you need? Like 40 trillion Colombian pesos to buy a cup of coffee? Like, no offense. I mean, I love my Colombian wolves. I have, this is, you guys know me. When I saw the Argentinian peso for the first time, I was like emotional. I could not believe my eyes. As a technical analyst, being able to look at that chart, I knew that that country must be going through some shit. Yeah, devastating to look at. It's horrible, you know, to watch the debasement of a currency. Who the hell would support that, you know? And then it's funny that this like new dude steps in and everyone's praising him because he says one thing about being anti-socialist, but meanwhile homie's like on the World Economic Forum. It's like, does nobody do their research before they start kissing somebody's feet? It's amazing. Anyways, I'm gonna take a sip of water real quick. All right. Hope you guys are having an amazing Christmas wherever you are. Truly. Eat good food. Be with good people. Don't be with anyone that steals your prana, of course. All right, so yep, that's about it on the stock market analysis. I would just consider that as we're breaking these all-time highs, keep this little tactic that I just taught you with the Dow in mind. You could copy the same for the NASDAQ and you'll get a similar kind of essence. It shows you that's most likely our stop out target into the new moon of January, a little bit of a pullback into February, and then I think March and April, early April, should be really nice, bullish final move, and then this thing will chill out for a minute. But we're giving you analysis way in advance. All right, let's get to quickly looking at the DXY. All right, DXY closing below this trend line. Amazing. All right, cool. So with the way that this is holding out, I want to see if I could catch a trend line on this point right here. One moment, let me find that. I just want to see this. What's going on? I mean, I kind of feel good about that. Okay, one second. Let me see what's going on right now. The only reason why is because rejection gravitate up, and then you see all these weeks of rejections, followed by this moment right here of backtesting it. That's what makes me feel good about this trend line. It's not the cleanest thing in the world, but also we're looking at a fucking currency index. So this type of bounce structure that we're getting, returning back to it, is making me feel that this might be in the finality of its move, but this is moving like a, like a sloth. So we can see that this apex between this prior rejection coming into about January 22nd. Yeah, so that does kind of make sense. Having this trade around the 100 territory until we get to that full moon of February. And then, yeah, in April, this shit could really drop to 98. Yep, early April, late March, we could see the DXY get down into that 98 territory. And that would probably align with being a touch oversold. Let's keep that in mind. Let's go to Bitcoin. All right, so we shared a lot of thoughts on Bitcoin. Let's see what this daily close got us. Not looking amazing. We did have this neckline, though, that I want to revisit in this top analysis right here. I think this is a good place. Okay, yeah, okay, this is fine. And then remember, we want to pull up our 21 exponential moving average. We're good. We're looking great. All right, so one thing at a time. Remember, this orange moving average is the 21 exponential on Bitcoin. As long as we're holding that, and these moving averages are sloping to the upside, things are looking pretty good. Another thing, as long as the wolf cross has yet to occur to the downside, that's another good thing when we're looking at a daily chart. So the 8 right now is sitting at the top. Our 55 is all the way down here at below 40K. So we're above the 21. We don't have any wolf cross with downside implied. Now let's look at what we have going on with this W pattern analysis, which we've talked about. It had a neckline around where we've retested. Now we're trading a little bit below it, so that's not looking good at all. But remember, please, please, please remember this. It is a weekend. The stock market's closed. So we had all of this volatility show up in a single 4-hour candle, and that's kind of normal. We were holding this for what, 5 days? Yeah, going on 5 days, about 4 full trading days, and then out of nowhere, this random candle shows up on a weekend. So this is very deceiving kind of data. You don't want to put too much to gamble on. It's like the same thing with Solana hitting all-time highs today at $119 on a Sunday during Christmas, you know? It's very, obvious. I never like to use the word manipulation here because that's not it. The market runs off of gematria, numerology, astrology. You all know that if you've made it this far. Looking at this based on the micro fib, we're still holding the 618. So just keep that in mind. As long as we're holding this golden pocket, it's looking pretty good when we're really zooming in there on the micro analysis. And we're effectively right there on the neckline. And the neckline's aligning with the golden pocket, so that's very nice. And then remember, the measured move, if this was to be bullish, would be up there at around 46,000 to 47,000. And a W can turn into an M at any time. So we don't really have any particular, I think a majority of us aren't really too concerned with what's going on right now in this move because we hit the general target we were anticipating, which was 40,000 before the end of the year. And we knew that we were moving up a little too early on this. But the fact that we got it, it's now putting all this liquidity into all the altcoins, and most of us invest in altcoins anyways. So, your bags are probably looking pretty good right now. And the next big pullback on Bitcoin is really the next big opportunity to get invested. So right now, while we're up, it's not really like too many alts have a de-risking opportunity. I know some do. There's been examples like Avalanche, for instance. I think Solana is a clean play. We've had Caspa sitting up there at new all-time highs in a very precarious zone. So there are isolated coins for sure. But for the most part, it's really not too much worth de-risking right now because that's playing it too fancy. Like, it's better to just wait for any pullbacks. And I think a good way to give my visual on this is it's like this run. Every time we had this deeper correction, it was just a chance to get a little bit more positioned. That's it. It's like when you're sitting on a chair for a long period of time and your ass starts to get numb, you kind of wiggle around. That's what you do when Bitcoin has a 30% correction. You just wiggle a little bit till you get comfortable. It's a repositioning. Thank me later on that comedic truth. So yeah, what we're seeing right now is just weekend madness. We have to see what's going to go on this holiday. Still, everything's closed. I don't know if CME will reopen today. It shouldn't. Yeah, it shouldn't. So I suspect it'll effectively be closed tomorrow. And as for what's going on here, when we start closing below the 21 EMA is when I suspect we'll start to see the deeper correction. But you can't put all of your eggs in that basket. You want to also consider the structure. So I would personally say the 34 EMA right now, let me show you. If I had to give my final thoughts on what I'm seeing here, If we start to close below this 34 EMA, the fact that it's in alignment with it would be a new candle close low, that does make me feel like, yeah, 38K is next, and then 36. This is a lot of trading range, by the way. We have a lot at 35 and 36, so that would be pretty quick. And that would effectively be around 20% of your move already, of your overall 30 to potentially 40%. Let me get over into this index chart and look at our weekly and see what just happened. This is all fucked up. Okay. This is very weird looking. What's going on? Okay, this looks better. So we have, we're just holding. There's nothing really bad about what's going on right now. I mean, we did get a tad into the over. I don't like 83 RSI on Bitcoin's weekly chart. That I don't like. So again, it's most likely done for now. That's okay. We see all of our EMAs are moving to the upside, splaying slightly. That's another very bullish thing to bring up. We have our 55 creeping up above that 200 pretty soon. And remember what I've talked about in the last podcast, the fact that we have the 200 Expo, the 200 Simp, and this 55 simple sitting at 28.5. That's all slightly above that lower range that I talked about, which is your horizontal support level. I know this might be a little bit complicated right now, but the point being is that if we can entertain a 40% pullback from this wick high, that would put us in this territory, perfectly situated on the 200 exponential. And if I was to show you where the 200 exponential has come into play, look, the last tests, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weekly candles in a row. And then over here, once we broke above the 200 exponential, we back tested it, confirmed it as a support, and bounced. So if we were to come back in a deeper correction, that does look like a nice level for a weekly close to hold. It would be weird right now to see a weekly close lower than that level. Just kind of, again, more of a technical outlook on things. So we already talked about if this W is going to play out, you'd have a move up to between 46 and 47. And if this M is going to play out, you're most likely going to move to 38. And then you're going to have that deeper correction settle in. I think 31K is in the cards. Like for me, I would love to be accumulating a little bit more final Bitcoin there. But, you know, that's still like right at your past solar eclipse levels. Like, I mean, it's not really. Yeah. All right, getting back to this list of stuff we need to get through, we have the Ethereum chart. ETH is holding your 8 simple moving average on the weekly, looking pretty damn good. We didn't get too crazy overbought on this weekly RSI. We effectively have a high right now of like 2,400 on the nose. 24, the 24 code as we're in the Hebrew year of 5784, which adds up to 24 Ether, the light. It's pretty interesting that we're hitting this 24 number installed out, but that's how this market goes. It runs on the code. I would suspect a deeper correction for ETH after closing this 8 below the 8 moving average, and we could also say the same thing for Bitcoin too. It's another piece of analysis to consider for the macro. To initiate a deeper correction, really when you start closing below the 8 is when you start expecting a deeper move. So think of it, below the 21 is like the first real big trigger sign. Then closing below the 34 EMA on the daily is another. And then when it's the 8 on the weekly, for sure, that's when you suspect deeper corrections. Okay. This is looking pretty good though. Like, I mean, yeah, it's just going to follow Bitcoin. And it was interesting the other day when Bitcoin sort of stalled out and we saw this recovery back within highs. Now, I bet you if I pull a fib right now, I'm just going to guess. If I pull a fib, I bet you this is at the top of the golden pocket. And what do you say? So swing high to swing low, perfectly rejected at the 786, closed even below it too. So this is how this market likes to work. It loves bull trapping into this area, and then typically that's your lower high, and that's a sell signal. So for me, I'm not trying to get too fancy on ETH right now. I think I have enough I'm not like the most bullish on ETH. I rather play with some other alts, but I do think it's responsible to consider at least 20% of the portfolio in ETH. Because at least you could bet on it cycle to cycle. And it had a really good last cycle too. And it had a very good bear market in comparison to a lot of other projects. And we could prove that because from all-time high down to swing low, it only corrected 81%. You know, how many altcoins lost 97? Solana lost 97%, right? So Solana's fun to hold at a certain time, but it's not this like, it's not by any means an investor's coin. It's a trader's coin. ETH is more the investment play. You could set it and forget it. With a lot of other things, it's much more speculative, much more volatile, and it's like a hot potato. You know, I call it similar to musical chairs. It's like you have to get your ass in a seat before the music stops, or when the music stops. I don't know. It's been a while. Wolves don't sit on chairs. All right. I think that's really enough for ETH. It's going to be more following the Bitcoin play. Now on XRP, we are getting so close to the end of the year, and we've talked many times about this fractal analysis. So let's get back there. Let's turn off these indicators and show you this fractal again. So I highlighted the fractal a little bit more, and you can see that we were actually mimicking the fractal quite a bit, even with this wick to the upside that we got over here on December 9th, pull back very nicely, and we have just been dead. Floppy fish, not making any moves, really low volatility, low volume. And you can see here, we were doing it to the upside before this breakout. And this was right back here, by the way, this. And then we just had this one candle engage and then we moved up. So the timing of all of this, let's go back to that. Go to our lunar cycles. We had this move up into our new moon, pull back into the full moon. That's going back here. We had this move up into our new moon back here, deeper correction into the full moon. And then we had to go through a new moon and a full moon before we went up. And then really the timing of when it got bullish was moving from the full moon into the new moon. You see what's going on here? And even look at how many days after the full moon, the shit was still sideways, a full week. So let's go to the full moon coming up soon. We have December 26th. Let's type that in. We're going to go to, what do we got? January 7th or something? So you got New Year's. So on New Year's Day, that would be in the, if it mimicked it, if it went exact, when you would start to see some breakout vibes. But you see where it topped out, or where it really, started to chill. It was about 2 trading days after the new moon. So let's look at when the new moon is. That's going to be on the 11th. And then we had about adding an extra 3 days to that. So this tells you really what the time frame is if we were to just look at the fractal. And the move on that was 200% in 8 fucking days. Now, what we're seeing today off of where we're at now, and if we were to match this fractal, it'd be putting us up. Sorry. This is looking a little wonky. This would be putting us up around a double. Okay? So that gives you an idea. If we were to be mimicking the fractal, I want to keep saying this over and over again so that people could really see what was going on here from the start. We have as far as January 13th, about 19 days from today, and it would be putting Bitcoin into around the 120 to, you could assume around these wicks here. You have a wick at 133, you have a couple wicks at around 130, you have this wick around 134. So sure, we can entertain that. But getting in the macro golden pocket would just be catching up to like Bitcoin. That's all. So we already know that Bitcoin has outperformed XRP this year. We know that Bitcoin has outperformed Ethereum this year as well. So this is just really lagging behind on this XRP move. And that's the way this coin is. It's boring as shit, and then it pops off. Everyone FOMOs at the top, and then there's a Bart Simpson head, rinse, repeat. That's why I call it a trader's coin. In 2020, late 2024, that's when the show's going to really get going. But for now, it's pumpy dumpy until then. So I want people to kind of see now what's going on and put things into perspective. But we do have to entertain real TA. These types of things of taking fractals is not TA. What we've seen in the play-by-play, with the 2-day cross analysis that I was sharing over here and all of that stuff, you can go into the exclusive Patreon posts and you could keep track of it yourself. We've been seeing XRP mimic this whole phase back here. And now it seems that we're getting very close to the finality of that. Again, in the home stretch. So we need to go into the RSI right now. We could see that we're flatlining, man. This thing is so boring right now that's typically what it takes for a breakout in XRP. Anyone who's been an XRP investor, especially if you've been trading it actively, you know what I'm talking about. Look at this right here. Look, we had 80 days of just bullshit and then green heaven dildo. Boom. It's hilarious. Look, right here's a great example too. There you go, 3 months straight, and then just boom, Bart Simpson head. Look at this. 120 days. Boom. Bart Simpson head. 2 months. Bart again. So we're in this mode where it's really getting boring. And I still actually think that XRP is, this is not financial advice, but I think it's worth investing in at these lower prices. Now, zooming into what we're seeing, and if I was to dim this fractal, this is showing us that it's holding this lower trend line very well, but this is around the 382 anyway, so you don't want to give too much prana to the trend lines if you already have these macro fibs telling you the story. So let me look at the weekly chart. Weekly closures above the 382 is very nice to see. We can clearly see a higher lows trend. This does make sense to get into the prior highs of 2023 by the new moon of January. That really does make the most sense, especially if we're going to be seeing the market doing what I was talking about before, where all of the market is extending up to its micro levels. But this is very precarious. I find this very weird how XRP right now is so mellow and down, and Bitcoin is potentially going to have a correction soon. So if that deeper correction comes in, I want to see how that makes XRP react. Because if we start getting into these 48, 45 cent level, that's going to be, I think, a good thing to talk about real quick, and then we're going to pivot, is a theory of mine. I think the goal the New World Order has is pretty obvious, but I think what they're doing with the XRP narrative is to completely demoralize, to just make everyone who's heavily invested in this feel horrible. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad for investing because it's one of my biggest positions, but I've always been actively trading it because I know the truth. And I know that you kind of just got to take action, you know? Then it's making me think about this demoralizing thing. And I do intuitively feel like there might be a moment soon where they hit with another big downer, you know, making the XRP community again look around at all the things that are doing very well, and it's going to just make people it's going to bring in that doubt, the FUD, you know what I mean? So don't let that shit shake you. Stick to your plan, stick to your investment thesis. That's all I can say. That's really the words of wisdom here. And I'm going to continue to invest in XRP as long as it's below these, at these levels today. Every time it swipes below 60 cents, I'm going to nibble a little bit. I don't care what anyone says. So let's make it over to waves Now, I'm not sure if I've ever covered this project. I tried to find a good chart. I did find this one. The data goes back to 2016, so we have a couple cycles to look through. But this shit is so annoying right here. I wish I could delete these scam wicks. You know, I wish TradingView would maybe allow you to customize that. If you guys know if there's a way to customize that, let me know. Is there a way I could just delete a candle? Can I just delete this day? Let me try it. No, that's on my mind because this is so stupid. Delete. I'm sure you guys know. Maybe you're smarter at TradingView than I am. But yeah, this makes it very annoying to do analysis. Anyways, I'm going to start this one off on a weekly because I have to. There's so much data here. I'm going to pull a fib from this swing high to this swing low. We're going to make sure that we double click this and that this is on fib levels based on log scale, and we could see something here. This had a really weird bull run into 2021, but effectively a very nice one, because if you were to invest around any of this horizontal area right here, got about a 5,000% gain. If you were able to sell anywhere near top, it was about 4,000%, and that's pretty damn good. That's what I think a lot of coins are potentially going to be able to do in the next bull run, and the one that we're in. But getting back to this, you can see from this swing high to the swing low pull on this macro fib, we have been trading around this 236. So that's very normal to see on this much data. That's very good, actually, because it's gotten up a little bit of progress since the C19 levels, but that will be one of the first things that I mention. This is your C19 crash. You can see that waves is only up 250, 230% from that level. And that was like the most devastating crash of all time. Now, there's a lot of instances that we've gone through here on this, in these podcasts that are even worse than this example. But this is still not the greatest looking chart. The fact that it's returned all the way back down to the same levels that it was before the C19 crash. So we got to be honest here. That's not looking so good. Let me actually just check in with Bitcoin really quickly. I want to see what's going on since the C19 crash. Hey, what the fuck are we looking at? It's like the Bitcoin 4-hour chart looked like a parabolic move. All right, so we took from this cluster over here. Yeah, dude. See, this is the point. Bitcoin is up 570%. From these levels, from these C19 crash levels. Waves is up 240%. Like, and this is an altcoin. This is not these are very, very like sketchy. You know what I mean? As of today, this project is down 95% from its all-time high. Its full move to the downside is probably 98. Yeah, exactly 98 on the nose. That's not good. It's not good at all. So what goes up must come down, but I guess at best I can see a little bit of a trend vibe going on. Let me point that out. Not even. Sorta. Maybe. Kinda. Yeah, this is yucky. I wouldn't touch this thing. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we have not made much progress on this one. I got to be honest. A couple back tests on the 236 is fine. You can't really call for much of an automatic rally when it has a chart like this. It's just very weird. What it looks like to me is it's going to have a huge W pattern, which probably has a potential top within the same range of where it's at in the last cycle. That'd be kind of like a outlook that I have. Still pretty okay. Still a 10x opportunity. Let me zoom in a little more on this. Sorry, this is a very difficult chart to look at. I might need to change time frame so I could get a different perspective because this is starting to burn me out already. Let me do that. Sometimes you just got to change your perspective. Okay, this helps. So over here we had the kind of selling climb. Oh, this fucking wick, dude. Here, just look at what I'm saying with this trend line. We had the selling climax, and then we had our C19 crash over here. This would be your, like, yeah, your up thrusts, and this is in a distribution. Let me see. I do feel confident about this trend line, though. Holding. God, you see what I mean? Every time I zoom out, it just fucks up the chart. Okay, here's what it is. I'm going to draw two lines that I think people need to consider on this project. It's going to be there. Yep, that's very clean. And then one more. It's here. Now, if waves can break above the second green line, I think it's going to be in a much more bullish vibe. But it's likely to come up and get rejected and trade within this zone for some time. So we could even have a moment like this. If it randomly wanted to get bullish, it would maybe push up into like late March, have your sell off, and then it could effectively come all the way back down here and then get a little bit more exciting. Let me measure what this pullback would be. And if it's under 70%, there it is. Okay, 60%. Okay, so that's perfect. That's about what most coins would do in this phase anyways. 70 or more percent would be more likely if it had a huge run up, but like where I showed you that and then coming down 60% is likely. So I wouldn't invest in this now. Even if it was to break out, there's still so many other opportunities. But if it was to come down to these levels again in the future and get past the Bitcoin halving, because of the timing of being past the Bitcoin halving, because of retesting these levels, then I would maybe nibble a little bit. And we're talking like a 1 to 2% position most. And I'm not personally going to invest in this. I'm just saying for the people that would be interested in it. But this is a very difficult chart to analyze, even with, if I was to take this ridiculous wick out. It's not the cleanest looking bull run. And when I zoom in on this, look at how schizophrenic this sort of top structure is. I hate, I hate these types of charts. They're very, very hard to analyze. It's very sporadic, very random. All right, let's go to Corium. Oh yeah, okay, I remember this one. So I had to, in order to even analyze this thing, I had to look at the coin market cap all-time high, and then I had to look at the CoinGecko all-time high, and I got two completely different numbers. And then according to this MEXC chart, I have no idea either, because it's showing me that it was launched at here at like $29 and then just cascaded to the downside. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the CoinGecko all-time high because it's within reason of all these wicks, and because this MEXC platform is a leverage exchange, I'm going to assume that any wicks that are higher are just because of leverage. So now we're going to take this monstrosity of a chart and we're going to have to do this with it. Again, it makes everything very difficult when you have this type of chart to work with. And from this alleged all-time high at 70 cents, it's at a 90% correction, so a full pullback. What I feel is going on now does feel like an automatic rally, so I'm going to show you. Assuming a fib pull from here to here. This is not enough data. Okay, this is very, very difficult to do TA on because there's no chart history. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and assume that that was your automatic rally. I'm gonna keep it right there because we have a lot of trading days coming in at 0.7, so 7 cents. I'm gonna make sure I leave my fibs here. For the next time I check back in with this project, I'll keep this clean at 70 cents. Again, it's just there is no conclusive truth on what the top is. You can't rely on a leverage exchange either. You also don't need to be so damn specific, especially with coins like this. But this is the end of your AR, and then what's likely to happen is a retest of the 236, and then you never know if you're going to have a spring. So consider bull trap. So micro bull trap is what I mean to say. Full moon. Lower high. Spring. Inverse head and shoulder structure at the lows, like this. You see, inverse head and shoulder structure, and then boom, quick move. It's very short-lived nonsense. And then by the way, you can't really speculate on where this is going to go next because, like, look at the chart, right? But we can entertain this 1618 now because there's data showing us that allegedly it might have gone up to 10. Sure, I could entertain that. Oh, and another thing we could do is sometimes I'll just take between top level and where we're at here. And if we're getting something under the 500%-ish range, then I don't feel so weird about it. So yeah, there's a potential 280 on this, but fuck, why even bother? I mean, yeah, you're speculating beyond belief. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this thing personally because it hasn't really had that time horizon. It hasn't had a bull run to make it through. So you're really like betting on a rookie here. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I hope you guys know that a venture capital bag is totally up to you. You need to think about it like you're going to put money in, and if it goes to zero, you're okay. That's how little you put in. That's how you do venture capital properly. So yeah, I shared kind of the projection and the idea on this. It's most likely heading in that direction. So let's go to see a coin. That's next on our list. Oh, cool. Okay, so I've done some analysis on this in the past. Did we get up to the 0.5? Almost. Okay, so we have a very macro pull. I'm going to show you right now what this looks like. It's a clean Wyckoff schematic. So we have buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally in the macro. Then we have this retest, and we're effectively building all this trading range here with a higher low structure. So this is really nice. Way different than the last couple charts. Yep. All right. This is very nice. Very nice. All right. So this is looking pretty good, honestly. Way better than this nonsense I was just looking at. We can point out, though, that the fact that we gravitated back up to this 1 fib, and by the way, this is pulled in a bearish sense. We have our swing low to swing high in reverse, pulling it from here to there. And we got a perfect touch on this 1618 back here a year ago. That's perfect. That's probably as low as we get in this cycle. So that's a good thing. Let's see how much this lost. I'm going to guess 94%. Oh, geez. Yeah, 96. And getting back to the 236. So I want to talk about that for a second. You see right here when I have the macro fib, the really long-term fib, going back to the cycle of late 2017, early 2018, and pulling it down to the C19 crash lows. When this mini cycle within the bigger cycle came to its current selling climax, all it did was backtest the macro 236. I hope you guys are taking notes on this because this is really valuable information. When that level aligns with that bearish fib pull I just showed you, which was at the low here to this swing high, and we can mark it by this breakdown, and the fact that this came back to the 1618, the golden ratio, on the opposite side of things, this really solidifies the end of the bottom on this bear market. So that's a very confident thing. And also shit lost 96%, so it's like beat up and bruised. You want to build positions in that case anyways. Also, we have this macro trend line that's looking pretty promising. So if this thing's going to come back down for another correction, I would really consider entertaining on this trend line as a buying opportunity. This is around 003. And let's just say it takes until after April for this all to go down, like the April full moon time frame after the the solar eclipse. Yeah, about 50-60%. So it's in alignment with what I just showed you before with the Corium chart. Like if you were to have that move, it's typical to see 60% corrections along the way. I mean, it's very normal. What was this? See right here was 55%. This was devastating. I mean, this is what, an 80% correction? Yeah, look, 85% correction, but then what did it do? So these are just kind of like the way altcoins like to move. It's really difficult to be fancy with them. You kind of just got to position yourself when you're seeing your indicators in alignment. Okay, yeah, so this is looking fine. Let me pull a fib in the other direction though. Okay, yeah, we're getting rejected at 3.2, and that's also that bottom of that break that I was showing you before. So that's not as bullish of a automatic rally vibe just yet, so I'm not going to call this an automatic rally. Ideally, you'd like to be closing macro candles above the 382 fib, and then you'd be moving up into here. And I do suspect that would be possible probably by September, October of this next year. So if we were to get a move down and then just get back up to prior last cycle's highs, that would be a little under 2,000%. But if we were to get back to prior all-time highs, that'd be 3,100%. And that is kind of what I've been talking about with a lot of speculative plays, having this 2,000 to 3,000% opportunity. Like 2,500 is really what it seems to be most altcoins are going to be able to pull off. Of course, within reason. Like I don't think ETH is going to do that, but a lot of this stuff should. That includes stuff like Dogecoin and, All right, so, but at least this has chart structure. It's bullish in its overall structure. Okay, we got to wrap up this podcast. We have Kusama. All right, so this thing woke up, what was that, yesterday? Today? Oh, shit, okay. Let's look at RSI. Okay, yeah, RSI is already in the high 80s. Oh, my goodness, look at this bull run. 50,000%, bro. Mamma mia. All right, now we have a correction of 97%, so it's just like Solana. Okay, now it's getting a little excited out of nowhere. Just popped. But part of the Polkadot ecosystem, Dot's doing very well. I've invested in Dot. I don't think you really need to get super fancy, but if you like, there's nothing wrong with investing across an ecosystem, of course. Not financial advice, it's just that's how you play venture capital anyways. And I mean, Kusama way outperformed Polkadot, right? So clean trend line, as you can see. Get that off, and you can see clean. So one test, lower low test, really devastating lower low because it came back to it and rejected. That's a huge GTFO moment. Then another rejection, and it just got sloppy from there. But then after breaking above it and this back test, you could see that things are looking pretty promising. So now we want to draw some horizontal levels. We're already achieved one, and now this is two. So the only reason I'm calling this is because we have this cluster over here, and right when it broke through there is when it went up in a straight line. You could see by this one rejection, which came into this W, and it looks like quick, but it actually wasn't. I'm going to assume this is like 50 days. All right, okay, so a month, but still that counts. It's very important. And then over here is really what I want to talk about. So we have it holding as a support, and this was the first break below, then the rejection, as above, so below. So that sits you at 68, and where did it get rejected today? 64, I think. Yeah, so a little bit below that. That's a level that once this thing breaks above, it's going to start moving. I mean, it's already gotten a little wild. So, oh shit, that's amazing because it's at your 382. So perfect. That's what I teach. I love when what I'm teaching everyone is like, as we randomly go through these coins that I haven't looked at in sometimes years, we like pull a fib and then see the level come to life. It shows you that you don't need the fibs. You just need the eye. You need the eye to be able to identify the levels. The same thing with the eye to identify the trends. And then you could get very good at making quick determinations there. It's a more artistic way of going about the market, which I tell everyone to do, because when you're more artistic and philosophical about the way you do something that other people do, that's your unique way of doing it. That's what will make it feel special. That's why when I do TA, it has this sense of like, whoa, I feel like I haven't really seen it done this way before. It's because I'm doing it my way, and that's how I want you to do it. Not copy me, but develop your own way. So with what we're seeing here is, again, just mimicking what I talked about earlier, below the 382, and the strong rejection is important. Breaking above this level is when you just engage the movement of continuation of your automatic rally. So once it effectively can break through here, we're talking about a move to $200 pretty quick. Also, because of past performance, if this thing was to just go from here up to the prior all-time high, that's a 10x. So that's looking pretty good too. And I say this because, okay, Solana just did a 10x from last year to right now. But I'm showing you many of these projects, if they just get back to all-time highs, they could also do a 10x. So don't feel like you missed out. And by the way, all the people, a majority of the people that were already positioned in Solana before a week ago, they didn't buy the bottom of December of 2022, okay? They didn't. Don't let anyone psych you out. You could look at volume, you could tell there was no retail buying that shit. That was all trading bots and algos. So again, there's a lot of like this energy that goes to these things after they get exciting. That's a sign. So I do like this chart. I think this is pretty difficult to make big bets on though, because it didn't have a run of the last cycle. So it's a very new project, but with this type of performance, I would at least entertain that it could make it up back to the 888. I can't say with full certainty that this thing could break into a new bull run price discovery all-time high, because we saw many projects in the last cycle not do that. They did not go into new all-time highs, one of which was XLM. We had Dash, Monero, pretty much. There's plenty of examples. So we just looked at a chart a moment ago that was showing you itcoin. That project didn't do it. So yeah, you don't want to bank on this idea that everything is going to go into new all-time highs is really what I'm trying to say. Final words of wisdom here in today's Red Pill podcast. But getting up back into the 786 or the 888 fib is still a great opportunity, because if this thing was to retest the 236 and this was to get even back to that range, I mean, you're talking 800 to 900%, almost a 10x. So it's incredible returns compared to what most people are getting. So again, be optimistic about this, not because of my opinions, but because of what we've been looking at in these charts. If a project can go up 40,000% in the last run, just imagine what some of this stuff can do in the next cycle. Maybe not as dramatic, but 10,000%, 20,000%, there's going to be outliers. Maybe not Kusama, but it will be another project. So I'm going to wrap this one up here. I'm hoping that, this next couple days is just a little bit more chill and we could see what the stock market will bring us, and the new CME open as well, because we talked about these CME gaps in posts earlier this week. Got to see how that's all going to go down. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your holiday, and wishing you all an amazing transition into this new year. I probably will catch most of you on this next live stream coming up, preparing for New Year's Eve. And in the meantime, remember, if you would like me to cover the projects that I'll be investing in, or I am investing in next week, just comment below Wolfpack in the comment section, and whatever, if I see enough votes in that, I'll go ahead and assume that's what you guys want me to do for next week's Red Pill. And until then, much love.